I found myself stuck with what might as well be about over 42 pages of images that I now need to make for my game. So this is pretty much where we're at. So starting off Monday, I realized that I had a lot of cutscene images to still make for my game. In the point where I thought, right, let's just jot down everything that we need to make for the rest of the game. Because I've made all of the actual cutscenes and dialogue and combat scenes for the game, I just need to make the images for it. And from what I can see, I'm pretty sure at the moment I've still got maybe at least 120 images to make, which is quite a lot to make with ChatGPT. And it's not just a matter of making them, it's also making sure the images are actually good. So I have a feeling I'm probably going to be doing this and continuing to try and do this for quite some time. Because each council member has their own story, there's 7 council members. I'm done with Council of Faith, but I've still got the rest of them to make. So that's been quite taxing, and I realize now that it's probably going to take quite a bit more time. It's the 20th I'm recording this on, so it's probably going to take until maybe mid-January for me to get all those images done. But once they're done, they're done. So it then hit Wednesday, and I realized that, okay, we need to get this Kingdom scene done. Because again, with me now trying to get the game out for January, probably late January, I realize now that I really just need to hone in on what I'm doing. And now that I'm using Cursor instead of ChatGPT to do the code, things have become a lot more efficient. To the point of which, where I've been able to basically get Cursor to just make me tons of scripts. So one of the things I was focusing on doing and still focusing on now is making all of the actual location functions. So by that, in each district territory, there are certain locations. It could be the arena, the alley, the royal court, the guild, and so on and so forth. And each of those should have some function where when you enter them, that panel should pop up with whatever actions you could take. So if it's the arena, it could pop up with an easy, a normal, and a hard fight. And depending on what it is, depends on how difficult it is, the enemies you face, but also the rewards you get. And the same can go for the different panels. And so I basically said to Cursor, right, I want to go and, like effectively, these are all the locations I have. I spoke into it and said, right, I want you to now make me the functions for all of them. And so it then made me about 4 or 5 scripts and made me a README script which had the rest of the functions to make. And I basically said, well, can you go and make the remaining scripts? And it went and made the remaining 8 or 9 script functions, which again is really, really quite good. And so then it hit Friday. And by Friday, I was then realizing, right, well, let's make all the actual panels, the actual visuals for each of these locations. Because I realized, look, if I can at least understand what I want each of these things to look like, then as I was making them, I realized, right, well, I will want that to be removed, or I want to change this, or I want to add this. So what my plan is that once I've got all of the actual panels made for the arena, for the ward, for the sanctum, and all sorts, then I can then say to Cursor, and I can ideally fix multiple script function at once with Cursor, and then from there I can drag and drop the stuff I've already got in there, and hopefully things should work pretty well. So that's pretty much where we're at the moment in terms of, the Monday to Friday that we just had. So I think so far we've made some pretty good progress. And again, we are still trying to aim for pretty much late January probably to get this game out. So what is the next week going to look like? Well, I think really, again, I'm still going to have to make my way through the however many hundred of images that I still want to make for my cutscenes. Because again, I've made all the actual cutscene game objects and stuff. I just need to make the images to drag and drop in there, because the most difficult thing that's been with this story has been going, okay, well, if there is a cutscene that has 18 slides, the text is fine, but I want to have images that visually describe the changes going on. And so for each cutscene, depending on how long they are, it's like, well, I'm going to want probably a different slide every 6, maybe 7 sort of, cutscene slides to sort of show things are moving along. And when you've got 7 heaps of story, that can get quite complicated. So That's one of the things we'll be working on. The next thing is we're going to make sure we get all of those panels made for the districts. I'm going to get all those functions sorted. Ideally, if by the end of next week, I can get all of the kingdom stuff done, ideally a bit before that, then I can get back into the combat scene. Because really, the kingdom scene stuff with all the new content, from the demo. So if I can now start revisiting the current content that I then have and refining that, then hopefully things should move on quite a bit quicker, and perhaps I might even be able to get the game out a bit earlier. But that's pretty much where we're at, so stay tuned for the journey. If you haven't already played the demo, at the time of recording, which is the 20th, the demo is still a very rushed version, but it's something of a snippet, so you can always go and play the demo. If you're interested in the full game, make sure to wishlist it. But with that said, thanks for watching, and I'll chat soon.